Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze and to the final day of Canuary. It's Canuary. I love it. It has been an action-packed, fun-filled month of canners from all levels of experience with some really great recipes that just top the charts. It has been fantastic. There's been pressure canning, there's been water bath canning, there's been steam canning. Everything, it's just fantastic. We had a total of 18 channels bringing you a canning video every single day for the month of January. Canuary. We may have to change our calendars after this. It has been so great to participate in, and I am so happy to have all of my friends join in and make this a really great month for all of you. Judging by the comments that I've seen, people are really enjoying it. If you have enjoyed Canuary, please drop a comment in the comment section below, because remember, in addition to everything else, we're giving away a pressure canner. Yes, a 23-quart Presto pressure canner will be going to a random comment on a random video when I do the drawing tomorrow, February 1st. So be sure to look for that video, okay? Now, today, for the final Canuary video, we're going to be canning something that has a bit of controversy around it. Okay, not controversy. I mean, don't clickbait it, Lisa. Come on. Okay, it is lima beans. Now, you either love them or you hate them. Phil loves them. I hate them. I'm good if they're disguised in something like a pot pie, you know, okay? But other than that, I'm not eating lima beans. But Phil really likes them. But over the years, I've heard so many different opinions on how they turn out when you pressure can them. Now, I think I'm pretty safe here because Phil genuinely doesn't care. He just likes lima beans, okay? But some people say they get too mushy. Other people disagree and say that they turn out just fine. Lima beans, like any other dried bean, the National Center for Home Food Preservation has what they approve, what they have tested, okay, for canning the beans safely. And even though lima beans are a softer bean than other bean varieties, and so that's where I think a lot of people say they get mushy, they need to be pressure canned at the same time that you pressure can any other bean. And it happens to be the same time that you pressure can meats like chicken or beef also, okay? And so for pints, you're going to do 75 minutes, and for quarts, you're going to do 90 minutes. They alter on the pressure depending on whether or not you're using a regulator or the weighted gauge. Remember, they are different. If you got a regulator with your pressure canner, it's not supposed to jiggle, okay? But if you buy the jiggler, I'll put a link down below if I can find it. They've been kind of scarce lately. But if you have a jiggler, then you go by the weight and not the gauge. I have another video that I will link to this that describes the difference and shows you the difference between the two. And I admittedly fell in love with the weighted gauge, the jiggler, the weight with the jiggler when somebody sent me one, and I have been in love with it ever since, and highly recommend it when they become available, if they are available, and when you can afford them. Okay, they're not really expensive, but okay. So we're going to get started canning up a whole bunch of Phil's lima beans, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a taste test so he can tell you whether they're mushy or not. Let's get started. When you're canning dry beans, it is highly recommended to soak the beans overnight. 12 to 18 hours is what they call for. I stick with the 12-hour time frame best because I really truly don't want them to get super mushy. But sort through your beans. Be sure to wash them off really good. Find any rocks or stones, and trust me, they're in there. I found them. And then soak them overnight. Cover them with some cool water. Just let them sit overnight, okay? And then the next day, you start canning them. The reason that they suggest that you soak them is because in their testing, they cannot guarantee that the heat penetrates the center of the bean for the amount of time necessary to kill off any bacteria. And that is why they say to soak the beans. If you've been with me for a long time, you know that I also don't soak the beans. But I have found in soaking them that I do end up with a better product. So I've been soaking them lately, okay? So when it comes to the lima beans, they've been soaked overnight, they've been rinsed off, and they have been put back in the pot. You want to leave an inch headspace. I'm doing in pints because, like I said, Phil is the only one in the house that eats them, and there's no sense in doing quarts, really. Now, lima beans, we'll start to see how you lose its shell a little bit, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the shell of the bean. Good stuff. So you're going to fill these so that they are within an inch headspace of the jar. And don't worry, we'll be going back and we'll be debubbling because we're going to be adding hot water to these jars. We're going to ladle hot water into these jars. I pulled out a dozen jars, but I truly don't know how many I'm going to end up using. I believe this is 2 pounds of lima beans, which I'm finding are not that easy to locate in our local grocery stores. I tried pricing them online, and you know, I'm frugal, right? I'm frugal. So I was trying to price them online to see if I could get a good deal. They're not the cheapest beans that you'll get, but beans are really inexpensive when you consider that you're getting a lot of protein and good necessary fiber out of them. These are kind of like a meal in and of themselves. So I'm going to finish getting all of these jars filled with beans, okay? Correct any headspace issues, obviously. And then I will be back. I have the beans all in the jars. I ended up needing one more jar. I had a couple left over, but you know, I'll feed them to the chickens. So now I've got the beans in the jars. I've got boiling water in my pitcher here. I've got more on the stove in case I run out. The pitcher comes in handy for that. Now we're just going to add water until you're getting up to that inch headspace. And an inch headspace is really easy to figure out, okay? The inch headspace is there. That's your ring right there. That's your inch headspace. So once you add the liquid, which is going to be really hot, okay? So you add the liquid, and then you grab chopstick, magnet, debubbler, whatever, and then you want to get in there and you want to move it around to make sure that you get any of the bubbles out, okay? You don't want to beat your beans up. Don't beat up your beans, but they're in there. Any possible bubbles are out. Bubbles can cause siphoning. Bubbles can make the jar not seal properly. All kinds of fun stuff. So you want to make sure to debubble. And when I debubble, it brings it all down to an inch headspace. So you want a little space to play around with. Once you get in there and move stuff around, then you'll find your inch headspace. And if not, you just grab a teaspoon, get in there, and pull out anything that is extra. Okay, so we're going to get these filled up. And then we'll be back. As with any canning project, when you are done filling everything up and you're ready to put the lids on, I highly recommend grabbing a cloth, whether that be a paper towel, washcloth, whatever. Use water or vinegar. I kind of prefer vinegar, but especially when you're doing things with sugar or grease, I really like vinegar. But then you're going to go around each jar and make sure the rims are completely cleaned off. They have no debris on them from filling the jars and debubbling. And it gives you another opportunity to check the jars to make sure that they don't have any chips or cracks or anything like that. Okay, we're pressure canning today, so putting the lids right on here. And these are from my stash of lids. I have not located another source yet. Cross your fingers I do. In the near future, I'm hoping that in March, as the letter stated, they'll start having more supply out to the public. I know it's randomly here and there, but okay. So now we kick the lid off. Okay, so now let me back you up just a tiny bit. There we go. Okay, So now we're going to put them on finger tight. That means don't crank them. Just put them on. You want them secure, you know, but you don't want to crank them. And you want to make sure they're level, but you don't want to crank them. Finger tight is just that. Where you do not argue with me. It's going on crooked. Okay, so where it goes on, and that's it. Finger tight right there, okay? And finger tight's different for all kinds of people. But for the most part, you just don't want to crank it on there because during the canning process, it is going to vent out any air that's in there, and that helps to vacuum seal. Now you'll notice some of my rings are looking kind of worn, okay? They might have a little rust on them. Rust doesn't hurt the process. It only hurts the process if you cannot get the lid to go on, okay? So you're good there. When it gets to the point where you cannot get the ring on the jar, then throw it out or turn it into a craft project or whatever the case may be. But wow, everyone likes everything to look pristine and wonderful and brand new. It doesn't always have to be to work. They're a tool. Okay, so we're going to get these into the canner. Remember, hot water in the jars, hot water in the canner. That avoids any thermal shock. 13 pints of lima beans. I have 9 on the bottom, 4 up top. We're going to turn the heat on. We're going to put the lid on. We're going to turn on the heat, and then we're going to get it to the point where it is venting a steady stream of steam. Once it's done venting for 10 minutes, very important thing, you need to be sure that to let it vent, what it's doing is pushing all of the excess air out of the canner, and it's integral to the canning process. So once it's done venting, then we will put the weight on and bring it up to pressure, and it is going to pressure can for 75 minutes. It depressurized completely on its own. We let it sit for an extra 5 minutes. I'm taking the weight off, and now we're taking off the top. Always open it away from you, because nobody needs a face full of steam. Ooh, yeah, and now it's time to take them out. Okay, now it looks like they absorbed more of the water. I can't say as I was completely expecting that, but we'll take a look when they cool down. Oop, there they go. Somebody down there's not happy. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have one that does not seal, but we will see. And it could just be that the temperature in my kitchen is colder than I think it is, and I think it's kind of cold. And so maybe another couple of minutes would not have hurt. Okay. Well, I'll know in a few hours if one doesn't seal, and then that's the one that we can experiment on with Phil. Don't tell Phil he's an experiment. He's always an experiment. And the last one. Okay, let me bring you down. How's that for timing? So even though I soaked them, they do appear to have absorbed a bunch of the moisture. Let me see if I can turn one here. And I'm not sure when it comes down to the mushy factor. Do you see on the bottom it's kind of like a bean sediment? That's what I'll call it. We will check out exactly what it is when we crack open the jars. So these are going to sit here, do their thing, which I love, and once they cool down, I'll know, like I said, in a couple hours whether or not I have one that didn't seal, and then that one or one that did seal will be cracked open, and we'll heat them up and have Phil give them a try. I don't know, they look pretty good. I'm not unhappy with them, except I really didn't think it would absorb that much more of the moisture. But beans do that. That's common with beans, so if you run into that, it's not an issue. It does not mean that the ones above the water are you know, not good. They're absolutely good. They're vacuum sealed in there, just like any food is when you pressure can it. And it has been heated through and through. So we will wait and give it a shot and see what happens. They're sealing. I know that. My wonderful friends, we are going to test out these lima beans now. I had a jar that didn't seal, so that's what they look like when you open it. And I'm going to put them into the pot. Yeah, they soaked up all the liquid. So I'm going to add some liquid. I'm going to add some just plain water to the pot. Okay, I added water to the pot. See there? Okay. I'm going to turn on the heat, heat them up. And, oh yeah, I have to get some butter. Don't forget the butter, Lisa. Phil likes butter with his beans. So, I don't think they look too bad. You know, for lima beans, there's a few that mashed. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get those heated up, add some butter. We'll be back for the taste test. Okay, so Phil has agreed to try the lima beans. They're going to be crazy hot, babe. I just took them off the stove. He's going to try the lima beans and try to tell you what he thinks about their texture. They taste good? Okay, but...
their texture is good.
The texture is good? They're not mushy?
No.
They're not too soft? They're definitely cooked. They're cooked though. There's nothing crunchy in there. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So we have a thumbs up from Phil for the lima beans. It looks like I'll be canning these moving forward. And he'll be eating a whole bunch of lima beans. Save some room for dinner.
So do you like bean soup?
Do you like bean soup? Yes.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Taste them.
I'm not tasting them. Okay, so lima beans are a success here. According to Phil, they are not mushy. What may give that appearance in the jars, if it's soaking up the liquid, then you'll have kind of there's like bean residue in the bottom of the jar, but it's nothing significant. They definitely were not mushy, right? Okay, not mushy. We'll be doing them moving forward. I may try soaking them a little bit longer and seeing if that keeps it from absorbing as much, but beans always continue to absorb liquid after they're done canning. So right now, it looks like all of those have no excess liquid in the jar. It looks like they're all bean, but they're perfectly safe to eat, so there's no concerns there. They were canned at the proper time, at the proper pressure, according to the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Link is in the description box below. I hope that you have enjoyed Canuary. Have you enjoyed Canuary, Phil? Okay, so I really hope that you have enjoyed Canuary. It has been a real pleasure organizing it with some of the best channels on YouTube. Absolutely fantastic. Remember, today's the last day. Get your comments in because the drawing is going to be tomorrow, February 1st, where Phil will be picking the random number from the calendar as to what day we'll be picking from, and then the random comment picker will pick the comment out of that video, and that person can win a 23-quart Presto pressure canner. I want to give a special shout out to Mike Pratt, who is the Instagram king, among other things. He's amazing all the way around, but thanks to Mike Pratt, he managed to put up something on Instagram for every single video and allowed me to share it on my stories so that we could promote the Canuary experience to even more people. And I hope that some of you were able to catch that. Mike, I appreciate you greatly. You did it every single day. Okay? So thank you to all the channels that participated. Thank you to all the people that came along for the journey. We'll see you next Canuary.